His colourless eyes sought mine.
I only wanted to demonstrate that I was correct. You said it was impossible to succeed as a repairer of reputations, that even if I did succeed in certain cases, it would cost me more than I would gain by it. Today I have 500 men in my employ who are poorly paid, but who pursue the work with an enthusiasm which may possibly be born of fear. These men enter every shade and grade of society. Some, even, are pillars of the most exclusive social temples. Other are the prop and pride of the financial world. Still others hold undisputed sway amongst the fancy and the talent. I choose them at my leisure from those who reply to my advertisements. It is easy enough. They are all cowards. I could treble the number in 20 days if I wished. So you see, those who have in their keeping the reputations of their fellow citizens, I have in my pay.
They may turn on you, I suggested. He rubbed his thumb over his cropped ears and adjusted the wax substitutes.
I think not, he murmured thoughtfully. I seldom have to apply the whip, and then only once. Besides, they like their wages.
You're not supposed to feed the troll or to show weakness online, but this tweet bothered me. Not the 90% of it at the start, but the bit at the end. The bit about how if I don't like my reputation, I should somehow set about fixing it. So what is my reputation? I mean, there's our first hurdle. I mean, and how would I repair it? I don't really know what my reputation is anymore. People have sealed themselves off into these ideologically homogenous, hermetically sealed social media bubbles, and it's only very infrequently that this gets pierced and I get some glimpse of what my reputation is now out in the wild. And unseen and unchallenged, it seems to get wilder, more confused, stranger, and even less true than it ever was. So, I mean, there's an immediate problem. I mean, in the tweet itself, this person speaks about how they immediately blocked me. It's not exactly true, but if that's how they want to present themselves, fine. But when we've got these block lists and so on, you never hear a dissenting point of view. You never bother to communicate with the person whose bad reputation you've heard of. So, I mean, that's an immediate problem, right? You're never going to be challenged. You're never going to hear the other point of view, and you're just blocking and writing people off before you've ever met or talked to them. There's some irony here in that this person works for Mongoose Publishing, has published work through Mongoose Publishing, who also used to employ me. Some of the works that I did for them at their behest, in terms of title and content, are things that have caused me no end of grief ever since, because they've been post hoc reinterpreted to be super problematic. So, and Mongoose Publishing published those works, asked me to make those works. When I was attacked by petitions telling companies never to employ me again and so on, I mean, I'd already kind of parted company with Mongoose, but they didn't give in to that mob. But this person is perfectly happy to take their money and work for them, but isn't willing to hear me out. Yeah, that's some heavy irony. But yeah, this got me thinking: how would I repair my reputation, whatever it is now? What would be the mechanism for repairing my reputation? How could it possibly happen? Could I have a road to Damascus moment, a sudden conversion? People love a conversion story from one side to the other. They've seen the light and now they see things my way. I mean, I think through to a massive degree everything that I believe. So a sudden conversion doesn't seem likely, and if it ever happens, you'll know that it's just because I've freaked out for some reason and can't take it anymore. So it won't be genuine. It would be a performance, and that seems insincere, and that would violate my ethics. And it doesn't seem like it would happen. In order to change that much, I would have to sacrifice my most cherished values. You know, truth, integrity, accuracy, considering the second and third order impacts of things. You know, being as clear and rational as it's possible to be, and all humans are fallible. I mean, it's so painful because it's mostly people who are in my tribe, ostensibly, are the ones who are being so awful. I mean, let's be clear, the people on the right aren't much better, and are getting worse and worse as time goes on, particularly in this country. But while they're on the whip end rather than the handle end, it seems like they can afford to be more generous and tolerant of people who have differences with them, and seem to emphasize more the commonalities that we have than the differences. And my own tribe is failing utterly and driving a lot of people away as a result of not doing that. Yeah, I can't, I don't think, change what I believe. For what I believe to change, the facts would have to change, and the facts, generally speaking, don't change. And I'm not about to change what I think is true and accurate just to suck up to somebody or just to have an easier time. That would violate my ethics. And at the end of the day, the only person you have to be able to live with is yourself, which is one of my favourite personal sayings, along with a pessimist can only ever have a nice surprise. And I couldn't live with myself if I just changed in order to fit in. If I just changed in order to make these people, many of whom I regard as awful, like me more. It just bothers me that they hate me for no real discernible reason or on the basis of lies and misrepresentations. To a big extent, we're shaped by our past, our traumas, our experiences. So I couldn't change myself without my past and my traumas and my experiences being different, and we don't have a time machine. So it's not like we can travel back to change those formative events in order to change my current personality. But can people change? Sure. Right? There are instances in which I've made mistakes or done things wrong, have acknowledged it and changed for the better. Some years back I got into an argument with an awful trans person, and they remain awful, but I was nasty or ignorant or less than polite about their trans status back then when my dander was up. No excuse though, that was wrong, and I acknowledged that, apologised, and I set out to try and learn more, and this was before all the current trans panic, of course. That didn't go so well, because I followed a bunch of trans activists and non-binary activists, and tried asking a bunch of questions and trying to learn, and they were, without exception, awful. And so perhaps if I had had a weaker, less tolerant constitution, I could have become more bigoted towards trans people rather than less bigoted towards trans people. But personally, luckily, I know some normal trans people in my normal life who aren't awful. So that kind of hardened me a bit, I think, to those experiences, and my tolerance grew in spite of, rather than because of, trans activists. There are people who've tried to repair their reputations in various ways. Let's just pick a couple of examples, ones that might be familiar to you from within nerd culture. I mean, there's a degree to which people try to pre-repair their reputation, to present themselves as one of the tribe. Please don't kill me. Please don't do me over. Like one of those spiders that gives off fake ant pheromones so they can get into ant nests and feast. Take Adam Coble, right? Here's a guy who you could easily describe as woke, either pejoratively or in praise of the fellow. He sent off all the right signals, hung out in the right crowds, hosted games with the right kinds of people, talked about the importance of safety tools and all the rest of it that you would expect from someone like that. Had a game with safety tools that went wrong slightly, and now the dude's cancelled, and there doesn't seem to be any way back for him, and I haven't heard anything about or of him ever since that happened. So, acting the right way, all the way through, right up until the moment that something went wrong, even though you were doing all the right things behind the scenes, did no good. At the moment there was the slightest disagreement or problem, that was it. So, pre-preparing the ground, giving yourself the right reputation so that you don't get attacked. The ethical equivalent of pointing at other people and saying they're communists. Right, at the McCarthy hearings. Yeah, that did no good. Then we got Warren Ellis. Warren Ellis was a bit of a Jack the Lad in some ways with some of his female fans, all consensual if ill-advised. Did that do him any good? No. Cancelled. He had the right politics, the right viewpoints and everything, but maybe was a bit too Gen X to completely fit in with all of that. When everything blew up around him, he withdrew from public life, stopped communicating with his fans, which was weird and odd. He started up again a little bit now, and basically caved to every single demand that was made of him. Did that do any good? No. The work hasn't really trickled back. The people he caved to have made more and more demands of him, and it hasn't fixed his reputation at all. So, can't win, don't try is the message that we tend to get from people who have tried to rehabilitate themselves. So that there doesn't seem to be a way, a possibility, a mechanism, even by complete capitulation, to get your reputation back, or to fix it, to repair it, to correct it. So it's all very well to make such a simple statement, well, why don't you just fix your reputation? But a lifetime, in my case, of ethical, consistent conduct and integrity, the right politics, the left politics, tolerance, forgiveness, and being the better man hasn't done me any good. I mean, we all make mistakes. I'm not saying I'm perfect by any means, but most of the things that people excoriate me for, we just simply don't see the same way. I don't think that just because something is sexy, it is sexist. I don't think fiction and reality bleed into each other to the extent that these people believe. I prioritize free expression over just about anything else other than truth, but they believe that these things are dangerous. They see Gamergate as having been a misogynistic hate mob. I see it in the same lineage and context as the CarPGA or the PMRC hearings. A resistance to corruption and censorship and lazy media. And, I was there in it. But my lived experience doesn't matter, only theirs does. And that kind of hypocrisy really grips my shit. Even more so when it comes to disability. I'm a disabled person who disagrees with a lot of what they say. So somehow I don't count as being disabled. My position on the progressive stack becomes ignored. Yeah, any solution would actually have to work. And it would have to mean not erasing my lived experience or sacrificing my moral and ethical paradigm by which I live. It would have to be able to pierce these ideological bubbles, these silos that people have sorted themselves into, and it would have to work despite of disingenuous whisper campaigns and shunning. And I can't think of anything that could accomplish that. If you have some kind of idea, and I am being genuine here, if you can think of some way that I could repair my reputation, then by all means, let me know what the fuck it is. Zang.
Satana Station is an addition to Machinations of the Space Princess. It's a whole sleazy space station, full of locations, services, adventures and inspiration for your old school space opera games. Over 100 locations, a bevy of non-player characters, and more plot hooks than you can shake an Arcturan mega stick at. Buy it at post-mort.com, drive-through RPG, and hard copy at lulu.com.